A new major rent program goes live in one area, and the applications are swift. But it's great news and great positive news as a lot of states and cities start to issue grant money right away. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is LALATE Afternoons. As always, thank you for joining me. Very blessed for you to join me this afternoon. Starting every day at 3:30 with a check, then hazard pay, then FPUC, and rent. A new video every 30 minutes. Thank you for joining me for this 2-hour programming block every day. It's part of our 3.5-hour schedule shows here on LALATE every day. Big news about rent minutes ago out of two cities, both dealing with the situation very differently, but both great news and more indication of what you should see coming along in the horizon. The hope for rent and the hope for rent aid for purposes of a federal relief did not happen this week. And what's very disconcerting was that we were represented by Steve Mnuchin that things like rent aid, things like utility aids would be coming in what's called a third stimulus package later this month. It would be done in the second phase of a stimulus package to be introduced this week. But when asked about that third stage, Mnuchin sort of passed it off in an interview yesterday, seemingly almost forgetting his remarks consistently over the week before. So as we sit here today, do we wonder whether there will be ever a federal grant program for rent formulated in the next few weeks? No, I'm absolutely not going to say there is. Currently, all efforts of Congress to get a rent aid out to American citizens, despite no less than 5 different bills, have not gone anywhere. So your focus should be sitting on this, which is incredible great news on a state and local basis, that cities, states, and counties are still doing rent aid grants even now in September. How could it be happening? What is he talking about? This is incredibly great news, and it's also complicated news for a lot of viewers who wonder why these cities and states would have the money. Let me explain what's happening. Under CARES Act 1, state and local was given a lot of money for this type of relief. And for reasons unclear, and for reasons I've been critical, and for reasons that are still not answered, state and local held on to that money for months. They've had the money since March, and they've never dispersed it. And so in a new article out today, which is incredible great news, it's also complicated news. Why is the grant program going live this week? Well, a new program announced in Orlando September 10th, which is yesterday, Wednesday morning, announced it was receiving applications for a new grant program. It had only been live for 2 hours. The question is, why is it going live on September 10th and not, back in May? The new program has $1.5 million in CARES Act funding. Okay. Why did you just get this money today? Where's this money been since the month of May? But at least it's good news. In those first 2 hours that the applications went live in Orlando, they got 700 applications. Applicants were undergoing eligibility pre-screening. Their eligibility must be starts September 23rd. Several other housing programs are available in South Florida. The program is being administered via partnership of the city and Heart of Florida United Way, and it's $1.35 million of CARES Act money. It first does a pre-screen process where individuals must pre-screen information and determine eligibility, and then eligible people are invited back to complete an application September 23rd. A statement was issued by Michael Plant-Kroppa, who oversees Heart of United Way. As with all recent launch programs offering assistance, this was a massive rush with the opening of the City of Orlando's rental assistance program. It's great news. As one person was interviewed for an article locally in a local news, she said, losing my job, losing my baby, and everything else, it was just sad. She was an Orlando renter who became homeless, and she was pregnant but had a miscarriage because of the problems of being a homeless pregnant woman. I had to give up, but now she got help. She needs it more than anything. I'm telling them, okay, I'm going to pay you, but I got to let go. She's been working with attorneys, which this is really wonderful, at the Legal Aid Association of Orange County Bar Association, which offered her free legal advice for renters. So now she is a part of the people that are applying for this incredible program to give relief to people right away. We really need help as much as is going on. Everyone's who's waiting for a check to come, this and that, and payments. I'm not the only one who's going through this. Wonderful comments from a woman who was on the street, homeless and pregnant, and lost her home, her baby, and her apartment. Now a new article out here in Los Angeles is dealing with homelessness, but they're having a lot of problems. And that problem is the following. Here in Los Angeles County, they had a grant program for rent, and that grant program is now expired. And that's sort of the confusion of where we sit here on a Friday afternoon in September, is understanding whether or not there's a grant program for you where you live. How do you find that? You need to go on Google and type in rent aid or rent grant plus the name of your state. And then do it again and do it as plus the name of your county. And then do it again and do it as plus the name of your city. A lot of these programs don't get a lot of publicity. They're not well publicized. And viewers simply just don't know about it. And when they go live, there's a big rush, but it's not as big a rush as you would think. Sometimes the programs don't have much applications going in at all. But if you do get it, it's incredible relief. One of the viewers of this channel was one of my first viewers of this channel, and he was also the first that I had ever seen that got a grant program for rent. His name was Kevin Lee, and he needed the money, and he applied for it in Texas after seeing on a local news channel in the middle of the afternoon or early evening out of nowhere. He only remembers seeing it one time on TV, and that was it, and he went to the website and applied. He thought much of nothing, and weeks went on, and finally he got the program approved. It was the relief he needed, but it's that type of ears and eyes you need to absolutely have to ensure that you apply and get this rent grant. Now, as you sit here today and you may be wondering about the eviction moratorium, you absolutely categorically cannot believe that your eviction moratorium is the end-all and be-all. You simply need to do this as well. Why? Here's the bombshell. The eviction moratorium requires you to do what I'm telling you to do. The eviction moratorium requires you to look for grants in your area. And if you don't, and they were out there, and you didn't get them, and they were available for you to get funding, they'll deny the eviction moratorium. Yeah, that's the way it works. So as you sit here today, what should you be focused on, and what should you be thinking about going forward? Well, you should understand whether or not you have protection, whether or not you have an order, whether or not you have complied with the order, and whether or not there's a grant program out there for you, because ultimately the grant program could make or break what you're doing. The grant programs generally, but not always, are based upon certain economic levels, based upon 2019 earnings numbers, and they're generally for people who made less than $48,000 per year. So if you made more than that for grant, I'm not talking about eviction, for grant, you need to be on high alert that you may not qualify. When we're talking about eviction moratoriums, the threshold is higher. The threshold for eviction moratoriums under the CDC order goes all the way up to CARES Act first stimulus check thresholds, which is like 80-something thousand. So 2019 earnings. So under that situation, you could still get more money in 2019 and still get protection of eviction moratorium. But when we're talking about eviction moratorium, there's certain things you got to do. First, you have to go to the CDC website. I have the link in the description to this video. You have to go there and download the order. Then you need to read the eligibility criterion. You have to do work. Don't sit back and don't think you don't have to do anything. You have to do work, and work involves going to the channel and going to the order and looking at what you have to do. Those things include doing a declaration, giving it to your landlord, telling the landlord you qualify, telling him what your situation, documenting your documentation, getting copies for yourself. You have to do certain work. It's not a lot of work, but you have to do more than nothing, because ultimately nothing will impute you and result in your eviction. Additionally, you have to understand that there's eviction capability still for the landlords for matters that have nothing to do with rent, so you need to safeguard those conditions there in the order as well. Finally, when we're talking about eviction orders, landlords may violate the orders, and that's why this article was so interesting here as this woman turned to a legal aid society. There are legal aid societies all across the country that'll help you if you think that you've complied with the order, but the landlord's violating it, and it happens all the time. Mortgage forbearance is another issue, and that's a little bit more complicated, a little bit more confusing. A mortgage forbearance was supposed to be protected by the CDC order, but some, as reported on this channel, now believe that the CDC order does nothing for mortgages, does not give you protection if you're a single-family owner of a home and can't make mortgage or facing foreclosure of your apartment building. It's really not clear. Things are just not clear about this, and one of the things not clear today is the rapid rehousing program here in Los Angeles, where they're trying to get people off the street homeless who are COVID-19 potential and into some type of housing. Los Angeles City Council President Nure Martinez rejected a staff proposal this week to authorize $97 million for the program. The status quo is simply not working. Just look outside the window and you see more unhoused people than ever before. The program would have called for $531,000 a unit be spent on housing costs. We're just not going to throw money at this. I see no value in putting all this money up front, said Councilman Jill Gadito. Although Council officially approved $97 billion for the programs, Eric Ares, a manager of homeless systems, said he did not ease the concerns that fewer people end up getting help. So the question is very confusing. It's very complicated. As we sit here today, will there be any relief from the federal government? I don't see it just yet. State and local remain the focus of Nancy Pelosi under the second stimulus package, but there was no assurance that state and local would actually send money to you as rent. The hope for rent was the rent provision of the HEROES Act at a time in which the HEALS Act, written by the Republicans, didn't give anything for rent. Even if you get the eviction moratorium and you're protecting your apartment, and even if you're fine and you're protected under the terms of the eviction moratorium all the way to December 31st, what are you going to do? Because come December, in the thick of winter, the eviction moratorium currently expires. There's a lot really unclear. And if you have questions, drop them in the comments below. I'm trying to get back to the core of this channel, which is answering more comments and more concerns. Hopefully that every time I report on Mnuchin and Meadows, that they start to hold up to what they're saying, which is just, it's frustrating to quote someone like Meadows and Mnuchin and Kudlow and all these people who tell you point blank, day after day after day, what they're going to do, and then they don't do it. It's just, it is very frustrating. And anyone else would just take their time and really edit together all their comments and just blast them in a video, but it's sort of like, why? My focus is keeping you positive, keeping you motivated, keeping you inspired, keeping you informed. And coming up after this is evenings out, like with big developments as well. Go to the Freelance channel and hit that subscribe and alert button so you subscribe and get alert when a new video goes live. The community is growing. We're trying to reach the 250,000 subscribers. Next, like this video. It really helps the algorithm for the video appear higher in the search results. Early this morning, almost 13,000 people, I think, liked the morning's program, or maybe it was yesterday. So we're doing quite well. Keep it up. As always, stay informed, stay motivated, stay smiling, and stay alive for more.